Rich Apache woman intended to be poor to find a husband. Only the rejected cowboy loved her. Iana lived in a grand home at the edge of her family's lands, surrounded by hills, trees, and the quiet songs of birds. She was known across her community not only for her beauty, but also for her intelligence and charm. Her long black hair shone in the sunlight, and her eyes seemed to hold secrets of the world. Yet behind her graceful smile, she carried a worry that weighed heavily on her heart. Despite being rich and having everything that most people could dream of, Ayana felt a growing fear. She wanted someone to love her not for her money, her jewels, or the comfort of her home, but for who she truly was inside. For many months, Ayana thought about this problem. She watched other women in the village marry men who were clever, strong, or well-known, but often the marriages were more about convenience or social advantage than real feelings. She wanted a love that was honest, pure, and lasting. She did not want to be with someone who admired her only because of her wealth or her family's power. She wanted to be valued for her heart, her laughter, and the way she could listen and care for others. The thought of marrying someone for the wrong reasons made her anxious. She realized that wealth could attract attention, but not true love. One evening, as the sun set behind the distant hills and painted the sky with shades of orange and pink, Ayana sat quietly in her room, thinking deeply. She traced her fingers over the fine embroidery of her dress, a gift from her family, and wondered if it had ever truly mattered to anyone who she really was. Then, an idea came to her, a plan that was both daring and risky. She would pretend to be poor. She would hide her riches and live as a simple girl, blending in with the villagers. That way, any man who chose to be with her would do so because of who she was, not because of what she owned. The idea excited her and scared her at the same time. Pretending to be poor meant giving up her familiar life, even if only for a while. She would have to leave behind her luxurious dresses, her fine jewelry, and the comfort of her grand home. She would have to walk among people without anyone recognizing her true identity. She imagined what it would be like to do ordinary chores, to carry water from the well, to help at the market, and to speak with neighbors as if she were just another village girl. Gianna knew it would be a challenge, but her desire for true love made her determined. Gianna began to prepare for her new life carefully. She chose simple clothes made of plain fabric, ones that would not attract attention. She tied her hair in a modest braid and removed the jewelry she had always worn. Even the small details mattered. She practiced walking with quiet steps, speaking with humility, and smiling without drawing too much notice. She wanted to be believable, and she wanted to see the world from a new perspective, one without luxury or privileges. When she finally stepped out of her home wearing her simple clothes, she felt a strange mixture of freedom and nervousness. The world outside her walls seemed larger and more alive than she remembered. She passed villagers who greeted her politely, unaware of her real status. She saw children playing by the stream, laughing and chasing each other, and for a moment she felt the simplicity and honesty of life that she had never fully experienced. Yana realized that there was beauty in ordinary moments, and she wanted to discover more of it. Among the people she encountered, a few men tried to get her attention. They offered compliments, small gifts, and polite conversation. Some were curious about the new girl who seemed humble and kind, but Ayana paid little attention. She was careful to watch them closely, noticing how they behaved when there was no reward, when no one else was watching. This was part of her plan, to find someone whose heart was true, someone who would be drawn to her kindness rather than the idea of wealth. One man, however, stood out to her without her fully understanding why. Cade, a cowboy who had once been rejected by the social circles Ayana had grown up in, noticed her immediately. He was rugged, strong, and quiet, with eyes that seemed to observe everything carefully. He had not been impressed by riches or appearances in the past, and something about this girl drew him in. There was a sense of honesty in her presence, a feeling that she was genuinely herself, even if she did not reveal her past or her family. Cade began offering small gestures of help, sometimes helping carry a basket, sometimes guiding her when the path was rough, and sometimes simply talking to her about the land, the weather, and the life of a cowboy. Iana noticed his kindness but kept her plan in mind. She wanted to see how he would act when he thought no one was paying attention. She observed him closely, learning about his character through the small details of his behavior. As the days passed, Ayana became more comfortable in her new role. She learned to enjoy simple work, like helping a neighbor mend a fence, gathering herbs, or fetching water from the well. Each task reminded her that life could be meaningful even without wealth, and that people could show their true colors when there was no advantage to gain. She began to notice the little acts of goodness in others, and it made her think more deeply about what she truly wanted in a partner. At the same time, she faced challenges she had not anticipated. Some villagers were skeptical of her motives, and a few questioned why a young girl seemed so polite and skilled despite her supposed humble life. Iana handled each situation carefully, always responding with honesty and humility without revealing her true identity. She realized that deception, even for a noble reason, required patience and wisdom. Yet she also felt excitement. Every day was a new adventure, a test of her plan, and a chance to see who truly cared for her as a person. Cade continued to be a constant presence. Unlike the other men who showed interest for superficial reasons, he treated her with respect, kindness, and patience. He did not try to impress her with wealth, nor did he flatter her with empty words. He simply shared his life, listened to hers, and offered help when needed. Yana began to see the difference between admiration and genuine love, and she felt herself drawn to his sincerity. Yet, she reminded herself to be cautious. Her plan was not yet complete, and she wanted to be certain of his heart before revealing herself. Evenings were the hardest moments for Yana. As she returned to her hidden room in a small part of her family's estate, she would reflect on the day's encounters. She thought about Cade, about the other men, and about the life she had temporarily left behind. She wondered whether her experiment would succeed, whether she would find someone who loved her for who she was rather than for what she had. Despite the uncertainty, she felt hope. She realized that her courage in stepping out of her comfort zone had already brought her closer to understanding the true meaning of love. By the end of the first month, Yana had learned much about people, about herself, and about the kind of love she wanted. She had discovered the joys of simplicity, the beauty of honesty, and the importance of watching carefully before trusting. She also discovered that sometimes love appears where it is least expected, and that the person who once seemed ordinary might be the one who truly sees your heart. Yana's journey had just begun, but already it promised lessons, surprises, and the possibility of a love that would be real, pure, and lasting. She walked through the village with a quiet smile, knowing that her plan would test hearts, reveal truths, and perhaps lead her to the one person who would love her for who she truly was. Yana's days in the village passed quickly, filled with new experiences and quiet. Observation. She had settled into her humble disguise so naturally that even the villagers who had known her from afar did not recognize her true identity. Every morning, she would wake before the sun, braid her hair neatly, and step outside to greet the day. The air was fresh with the scent of dew on grass and the faint perfume of wildflowers scattered along the dusty paths. She carried a small basket and began her daily tasks, moving among the villagers as if she had always belonged. Her presence began to attract attention, not because of her beauty, but because of her warmth. Iana had a way of smiling that made people feel calm and safe. She listened carefully to their stories, shared small laughs with children, and offered help whenever she could. Even though she pretended to be poor, She carried herself with a quiet confidence that made others respect her. She knew that true charm did not come from wealth or clothing. It came from kindness, honesty, and the courage to be oneself. Cade, the cowboy who had once been rejected by society for his ordinary life, noticed Ayanna more and more each day. He saw her helping an elderly woman carry firewood, sharing a joke with children, and patiently assisting those who stumbled along the rocky paths. He admired the way she moved through the world with genuine concern for others, never expecting reward or attention. Cade had worked hard all his life, living close to the land, riding his horse from dawn to dusk, and tending to his animals with care. He understood honesty and hard work, and he could recognize when someone shared those values. One morning, Cade found Ayanna at the market, struggling to lift a basket of fresh vegetables onto a stall. Without hesitation, he stepped forward. "Let me help you with that," he said, his voice calm and steady. Ayanna looked up, slightly startled, but nodded. Cade lifted the basket with ease, setting it on the stall and smiling. "Thank you," she said softly. "I wasn't expecting help, but I'm glad you came along." Cade shrugged. "A little help goes a long way," he replied. "No need for thanks. Everyone deserves a hand when they need it." Ayanna noticed the sincerity in his words. Unlike other men who had tried to impress her with flattery or gifts, Cade did not speak to gain favor. He spoke because he cared. That realization made her heart feel lighter, though she reminded herself to continue her careful observations. Her plan was not yet complete, and she needed to be certain of the people around her. Days turned into weeks, and Ayanna began learning more about the daily life of the village. She discovered that simple work could bring satisfaction in ways wealth never had. She fetched water from the well, tended to small gardens, and helped neighbors mend fences or repair roofs. Each task brought a new understanding of life and gave her opportunities to observe character. She began to see who acted with integrity and who was motivated by selfishness or convenience. Several men tried to gain her attention during this time, hoping that her supposed humility might make her more approachable. They offered small gifts, praised her beauty, and attempted to impress her with stories of their success. Yet, their efforts often revealed their shallow intentions. Ayanna noticed that when there was no reward or benefit, these men would retreat or grow impatient. They were drawn to the idea of her, not the person she truly was. Cade, however, continued to act differently. He did not try to impress her or gain her favor. Instead, he shared his knowledge of the land, helped with chores without complaint, and spoke openly about his own struggles and experiences. He talked about the early mornings he spent caring for his animals, the long rides he had taken across open plains, and the challenges of living close to nature. He never boasted, never exaggerated, and never expected anything in return. Yana found herself listening carefully to every word he spoke. She felt a growing respect for him, though she kept her feelings hidden. One afternoon, a small crisis occurred in the village. A young boy had wandered too close to the river and slipped, struggling in the fast current. Xiana, who had been gathering herbs nearby, saw the danger immediately. Without thinking, she ran toward the water, shouting for help. Cade, who had been nearby tending to his horse, sprinted alongside her. Together, they managed to reach the boy and pull him safely to the shore. Yana's heart raced, but relief washed over her as she saw the boy safe. "Are you all right?" Cade asked, brushing water from his clothes. His eyes were filled with concern, but there was no hint of pride or showiness. Yana nodded, catching her breath. "Yes, thanks to you," she said. He shook his head. "We did it together." That's what matters. That moment, filled with shared effort and concern for another person, stayed with Ayanna. She realized that genuine connection was built not on appearances or wealth, but on courage, cooperation, and compassion. Cade's consistent kindness began to challenge Ayanna's expectations. She had expected to find love through careful observation, tests, and disguises. Yet here was a man whose heart and actions spoke louder than any plan or scheme. She found herself drawn to him in ways she had not anticipated. His honesty, patience, and willingness to help without expecting anything in return touched her deeply. Yet she still reminded herself to proceed cautiously. Revealing her true feelings too soon could disrupt the careful balance she had created. Meanwhile, Ayana's disguise allowed her to see the world through a new lens. She observed neighbors helping each other, strangers offering small acts of kindness, and the quiet dignity of people living simple lives. She discovered that happiness could be found in moments often overlooked: the laughter of children, the warmth of a shared meal, the satisfaction of completing a task with one's own hands. These experiences taught her that life's true richness was not in gold or jewels, but in the hearts and actions of those around her. As the days passed, Ayana and Cade spent more time together, though still cautiously. They would walk along the dusty paths, talking about the land, the animals, and the simple pleasures of life. Cade never tried to rush their friendship or impress her with wealth or stories of grandeur. He spoke honestly, listened carefully, and treated her with respect at every turn. Yana noticed that he never judged her, never questioned her motives, and never sought anything beyond friendship and trust. Other villagers began to take note of their growing closeness. Some whispered about the mysterious girl who had appeared in the village, noting her kindness and her growing friendship with Cade. Yana paid little attention to the gossip, knowing that her plan required patience. She wanted to see who truly cared for her heart, not who was drawn to rumors or appearances. Evenings remained her time for reflection. After long days of work and interaction, she would sit quietly, thinking about the events of the day. She wrote in a small notebook she kept hidden, recording her thoughts, her observations, and the small lessons she had learned. She wrote about Cade's kindness, the courage shown in moments of danger, and the surprising depth of simple acts of honesty and care. Each entry helped her understand her own heart and the qualities she valued most in another person. By the end of the second month, Ayana's plan had started to show its results. She had learned who acted with genuine kindness and who was motivated by self-interest. She had discovered the quiet satisfaction of honest work and the beauty of living simply. Most importantly, she had begun to see the difference between admiration and true love. And in her heart, a new feeling was taking shape, a deep respect and growing affection for Cade, the cowboy who had once been rejected, but who now showed the qualities she had always sought. Yana realized that her experiment was not just about finding a husband, it was about understanding the nature of love itself. Love could not be forced, bought, or tested through tricks alone. It had to be recognized, nurtured, and allowed to grow naturally. Cade had shown her that the heart could see what wealth and status could not, and she felt both hope and caution as she continued her journey. Every step she took, every smile she offered, and every act of kindness she shared brought her closer to understanding herself and the world around her. The days were filled with small adventures, quiet moments of reflection, and the subtle unfolding of a connection that promised something deeper than anything she had imagined. And though she still walked among the villagers as a humble girl, Ayana felt a quiet joy in knowing that she was learning the greatest lesson of all, that true love is found not in riches, but in honesty, courage, and the willingness to see the heart beneath appearances. Yana had now lived among the villagers for several weeks, learning the rhythms of their lives and observing the true nature of those around her. She had grown comfortable with her disguise, walking through the dusty streets in plain clothes, smiling at neighbors, and helping wherever she could. But her experiment was far from over. She knew that appearances could be deceiving, and she wanted to be absolutely certain of the hearts of those who sought her attention. This part of her plan would test not only the men in the village but also her own heart, for the lessons she was learning about love were becoming more complicated than she had imagined. One bright morning, Ayana arrived at the marketplace, where a small crowd had gathered. Vendors called out the prices of fruits and vegetables. The scent of fresh bread and herbs filled the air, and the soft braying of donkeys mingled with the laughter of children. Yana carried a basket filled with freshly picked flowers, hoping to trade them for a few simple groceries. As she moved through the crowd, she noticed several young men watching her closely. Their interest was obvious. They whispered to each other, gestured toward her, and tried to catch her eye. But she had learned to be cautious. These men were drawn to her beauty and charm, but she needed to see if their admiration would hold when no reward was offered. To test them, Yana devised a small challenge. She approached each man in turn, asking for help with simple but tedious tasks, carrying heavy baskets, arranging goods on a stall, or assisting her in picking up spilled items. Some of the men agreed, but their smiles quickly faded when the work proved tiresome. They muttered complaints, acted impatiently, or simply walked away, leaving her to complete the task herself. Jana observed silently, taking mental notes. She could see clearly who was motivated by appearance and who acted with kindness for its own sake. Cade, on the other hand, did not need a test. He had already proven himself through consistent actions and quiet attention. But even so, Ayana included him in her small challenges, curious to see how he would respond now that the villagers were watching. True to form, Cade stepped forward without hesitation, lifting heavy baskets with ease, assisting her in arranging the market goods and speaking words of encouragement. He did not complain, did not seek praise, and did not make a show of his efforts. His behavior reinforced what Ayana had already suspected. His heart was sincere, and his intentions were genuine. One afternoon, Ayana faced a different kind of test, an emotional one. She learned that a traveler passing through the village had lost his way and was in need of shelter. The other men, curious about the newcomer, offered advice and fleeting assistance, but their help was limited and self-serving. Cade, however, immediately offered to guide the traveler to a safe place and provide food and water until he could continue his journey. Jana watched quietly as Cade spoke kindly to the man, asked questions about his life, and ensured that he felt welcomed. The act was simple, but it revealed volumes about the cowboy's character. Yana realized that true love was not found in grand gestures alone, nor in impressive displays of wealth or talent. It was revealed in moments of patience, thoughtfulness, and quiet care. Cade had consistently demonstrated these qualities without expectation, and each act made her heart stir in ways she had not anticipated. She found herself thinking of him not as a suitor to be tested, but as someone she genuinely admired, someone whose presence brought calm and warmth. Yet she reminded herself to stay cautious. Her plan was not yet complete, and she needed to see the full picture before revealing her true feelings. Meanwhile, the other suitors became increasingly frustrated by her subtle challenges. They had expected admiration and easy attention, but Iana's tests exposed their shortcomings. Some argued with her, claiming that she was unfair, while others simply gave up, muttering complaints as they walked away. Yana observed each reaction carefully, noting not only the actions of the men, but also their attitudes, their patience, and their sincerity. It became clear that most were drawn to her superficial qualities rather than her heart. In contrast, Cade remained patient and steady. He never complained, never acted out of self-interest, and never tried to force his presence. Even when other men mocked or ignored him, he continued to assist Ayana quietly, demonstrating a level of integrity that few could match. Yana found herself admiring his character more each day, realizing that love, when rooted in respect and understanding, was far more valuable than wealth, status, or appearance. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills and painted the sky in shades of gold and purple, Ayana and Cade walked together along a quiet path outside the village. The air was cool and fragrant with the scent of wildflowers, and the soft rustle of leaves provided a gentle soundtrack to their conversation. Cade spoke of his experiences living on the land, his dreams, and his fears, while Ayanna listened intently, sharing small details of her daily life without revealing her true identity. "It's strange," Ayanna said softly, "how much we can learn about someone in simple moments. The small choices, the little gestures, they show more than words ever could." Cade nodded. "That's true," he replied. "It's easy to impress with fancy clothes or grand stories, but real character comes out when no one is watching. That's what matters." Yana felt a warmth in her chest, a sense of connection that she had not experienced before. She realized that Cade had already passed every test she could have devised, not through careful planning, but through the natural goodness of his heart. And yet she continued to observe quietly, wanting to understand the hearts of others as well. The following weeks brought more opportunities for observation. Yana watched how each man in the village responded to challenges, how they treated others in need, and how they acted when no one was paying attention. Some displayed patience and generosity, but only when there was reward or recognition. Others showed selfishness, impatience, or arrogance. Through it all, Cade remained steady, offering kindness without expectation and showing genuine interest in the people around him. Yana also faced small personal tests during this time. She challenged herself to take on tasks she had never done before, repairing fences, gathering firewood, helping with chores that required strength or skill. Each task reminded her that life's true richness was not in possessions, but in effort, learning, and shared experience. She discovered that humility and resilience were qualities that made a person admirable, and that these traits could reveal true character more than appearances ever could. One afternoon, an unexpected event brought Ayanna and Cade even closer. A small fire broke out at the edge of the village, threatening the barns and nearby homes. Panic spread quickly as villagers rushed to contain the flames. Ayanna acted without hesitation, helping to pass buckets of water, guiding people to safety, and calming frightened children. Cade worked alongside her, carrying heavy buckets, rescuing animals, and offering steady guidance. Together, they coordinated efforts, showing courage, teamwork, and compassion under pressure. After the fire was under control, the villagers gathered to thank each other for their efforts. Many praised Ayanna for her bravery, but she quietly deflected attention, ensuring that Cade received equal acknowledgement. She had come to respect him not only for his kindness, but also for his humility, courage, and strength of character. In that moment, she realized that their connection was deeper than she had imagined. Cade's consistent integrity and care had revealed a love rooted not in words or appearances, but in action and heart. That evening, as they walked back toward the village under a sky full of stars, Ayanna felt a mixture of relief, admiration, and quiet excitement. Her plan to test hearts had succeeded in revealing the truth about many, but more importantly, it had revealed the depth of her feelings for Cade. She knew that he was different from the others, not because he was extraordinary in wealth or skill, but because he was ordinary in ways that mattered most: honest, reliable, patient, and genuinely caring. Yet even as her heart leaned toward him, Ayanna reminded herself to continue observing. Love was precious, and she wanted to be sure that when she revealed her true identity, the bond they had formed would remain strong. She reflected on her journey so far, the lessons she had learned about humility, honesty, and the value of small acts of kindness, and she felt a sense of calm determination. She knew that her heart had found someone truly special, but she also knew that the next steps required courage and honesty. By the end of part 3, Ayanna had gained clarity. The tests she had devised for others had revealed the shallow motives of some and the genuine hearts of a few. Cade stood out not only as the most sincere of them all, but as someone whose actions spoke louder than any words could. Yana's admiration for him had grown into something deeper, a quiet certainty that perhaps he was the one who could love her for herself, not her wealth or status. Yet the story was far from over. Challenges still awaited, and Ayana knew that revealing her true self would be the ultimate test for both of them. The peaceful rhythm of the village life continued for Ayana, yet beneath the calm surface, tension began to stir. She had spent weeks testing the hearts of those around her and observing Cade's unwavering sincerity. While her feelings for him had grown stronger with each day, she knew that the ultimate challenge was still ahead, revealing her true identity. The thought both excited and frightened her. She had grown to love the simplicity and honesty of her current life, but she also carried the weight of the secret she had kept. One morning, as the first light of dawn spread across the hills, a visitor arrived in the village. He was a well-dressed man, riding a horse adorned with fine tack, clearly from a distant town. The villagers murmured with curiosity, wondering who had come to visit. Gianna felt a familiar nervous flutter in her chest as she noticed the man approaching the marketplace. He dismounted and spoke politely to the vendors, asking after a young woman who had recently appeared in the village. The man's questions were careful, precise, and observant, and Ayana immediately realized that he had come for her. Before she could react, the man called out her name. "Yana, there you are." His voice was full of surprise and recognition. Yana froze. She knew that her secret, her true identity as the wealthy daughter of the Apache family, was about to be revealed. Villagers turned to look at her, curious about the commotion. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, trying to remain calm. "Yes, that's me," she said softly, keeping her voice steady. "I suppose you've discovered the truth." The man smiled warmly. "Indeed. Your family has been looking for you. They were concerned about your absence and your decision to live among the villagers. They wanted to see for themselves that you were safe." The villagers murmured among themselves, some in admiration, others in confusion. The young men who had attempted to court her suddenly realized that the poor girl they had admired was actually the wealthy Iana. Embarrassment and shock flashed across their faces as they understood that their shallow motives had been exposed. They had thought they were competing for the affection of an ordinary village girl, only to discover that she was a person of status and wealth. Cade, standing nearby, watched silently. His expression was calm, though Ayana could see the flicker of surprise in his eyes. She felt a pang of nervousness. Would this revelation change how he saw her? Would he regret the closeness they had built over the past weeks? She wanted to believe in the bond they had formed, but uncertainty gnawed at her heart. The visitor continued speaking, addressing both the villagers and Ayana. "She is your daughter, Ayana. She has come here to learn about life, to find someone who loves her for who she is. We understand her intentions, and we are proud of her courage. But we also wanted to ensure her safety." Yana nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and anxiety. Her family's acknowledgement of her plan reassured her, but now the challenge was to face Cade openly and honestly. Stepping closer to him, Ayana took a deep breath. "Cade," she said softly, "there is something you need to know. The truth about me, my family, my wealth, everything I have hidden from you until now." She hesitated, searching his eyes for a hint of doubt or disappointment. Cade looked at her steadily, waiting without interruption. "I am not the simple girl you have known," she continued. "I am Ayana, the daughter of a wealthy family. I came here to see who would love me for my heart, not for my fortune. I never meant to deceive you, but I needed to understand who truly cared." Cade's gaze softened. He stepped closer, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "Ayana," he said quietly, "I don't need your wealth. I've cared for you because of who you are, because of your kindness, your courage, your heart. Nothing else matters." Ayana felt a wave of relief wash over her. His words, simple yet sincere, confirmed what she had hoped. Cade had passed every test, not because of her plan, but because he had been genuine from the start. She realized that his love was not dependent on appearances or rewards. It was steadfast, patient, and real. The villagers, now fully aware of her true identity, began to react. Some whispered in admiration, impressed by her courage and humility. Others expressed surprise at the truth, realizing that the girl they had seen as poor and ordinary was, in fact, someone of wealth and influence. The young men who had tried to win her affection looked ashamed, understanding that their motives had been superficial. Ayana's heart was filled with a mixture of emotions: pride in her journey, relief in Cade's response, and excitement for what lay ahead. She had taken a risk, stepping into the unknown to discover true love, and the reward was beyond what she had imagined. Cade had not been swayed by appearances or social expectations. He had valued her for her character, her strength, and her heart. In the days that followed, Ayana and Cade's relationship deepened. They walked together through the village, no longer as a mysterious girl and a cautious cowboy, but as two people who had discovered a genuine connection. Cade continued to demonstrate his patience, kindness, and reliability, and Ayana felt free to share her thoughts, her laughter, and her dreams without fear of judgment. Even as her true identity became known, Ayana maintained her humility and her connection to the village. She continued to help neighbors, tend to gardens, and engage with the community. Her family had entrusted her with the freedom to learn and grow, and she cherished the simple joys of life that she had come to love. She understood that wealth and status were not meaningless, but they were not the foundation of happiness. True joy came from compassion, honesty, and meaningful connections with others. Cade, too, found his life enriched by the experience. He had always lived close to the land, valuing hard work and honesty, but Ayana had shown him a new perspective on courage, patience, and the power of quiet love. Together, they discovered that love was not about grand gestures or appearances, but about trust, respect, and the willingness to support each other through challenges. Their bond grew stronger as they faced small obstacles together, helping villagers with chores, organizing events, and navigating the occasional disagreements that arose from different life experiences. Each challenge reinforced their understanding of one another, and each shared moment brought them closer. Ayana admired Cade's steadfastness, his gentle humor, and his ability to see the heart beneath appearances. Cade admired Ayana's courage, her thoughtfulness, and her ability to balance strength with humility. One evening, as the village settled under a sky full of stars, Ayana and Cade walked along a quiet path outside the village. The night air was cool and fragrant, and the soft rustling of leaves created a peaceful soundtrack. Ayana spoke softly. "I was afraid for so long that no one would see me for who I truly am. But you've shown me that love is about the heart, not about wealth or status." Cade smiled, taking her hand gently. "And you've shown me that courage and kindness are the most valuable qualities in a person. We've both learned from each other, Ayana. That's what makes this real." Ayana felt a warmth in her chest, a deep sense of gratitude and joy. She realized that the journey she had undertaken, the experiment, the challenges, the careful observation, had been necessary not to find a suitor, but to discover the meaning of love itself. And now, standing beside Cade, she understood that love had been present all along, quiet, steady, and true. As the days turned into weeks, the villagers grew accustomed to the knowledge of Ayana's true identity. They admired her humility, her courage, and the way she had navigated the challenges of life in the village. Many were inspired by the story of her experiment, seeing in it a lesson about honesty, integrity, and the importance of valuing people for who they are, not for what they possess. For Ayana and Cade, the revelation of her true identity marked not an end, but a new beginning. They faced the future together, ready to build a life based on trust, respect, and the shared understanding that had grown between them. Ayana's plan had been risky, but it had led her to the one person who could love her for her heart, not her wealth. And Cade, once the rejected cowboy, had become her partner, proving that true love sees beyond appearances to the soul beneath. Through the experience, Ayanna learned that the greatest treasures were not gold, jewels, or grand homes, but the quiet, steadfast love that grows when hearts meet honestly. She realized that courage, patience, and kindness were qualities to cherish, and that sometimes the person who seems ordinary is the one who truly understands the extraordinary nature of love. The villagers continued their daily lives, inspired by the story of the girl who had lived among them in humility and revealed the power of love, honesty, and courage. And for Ayanna and Cade, life continued with simple joys, shared responsibilities, and a love that had been tested, proven, and now fully embraced. Life in the village returned to a peaceful rhythm. Yet for Ayanna, each day now carried a new sense of purpose and joy. She had revealed her true identity, and the villagers had come to accept and respect her not only for her courage, but also for her humility. The lessons she had learned while living among them, the value of hard work, the beauty of small kindnesses, and the strength found in patience, had become a permanent part of who she was. And through it all, one presence remained steady and comforting: Cade, the cowboy who had loved her for herself, not her wealth or her family name. Ayanna and Cade's bond deepened with every passing day. They walked together through fields and paths, sharing laughter and quiet conversations. They worked side by side, helping neighbors repair roofs, tend gardens, and care for animals. The villagers watched them with admiration, noting how their connection was built on trust, respect, and mutual care rather than appearances or expectations. Yana felt grateful that her journey had led her to Cade, and Cade felt fortunate to have found someone whose heart matched his own. Even with her family aware of her choice and supportive of her independence, Ayanna approached each day with thoughtfulness. She did not want her wealth or status to overshadow the life she had grown to cherish in the village. She continued to help at the market, tend to small tasks, and engage in acts of kindness simply because they brought her joy. Through these actions, she showed that true nobility comes not from birth or riches, but from compassion, humility, and courage. Cade, who had always been accustomed to a simple life, grew alongside her. He learned more about the ways of wealth and society from Ayanna, yet he remained grounded in the principles that had guided him all his life: honesty, patience, and respect. He admired Ayanna not only for her bravery and intelligence, but also for her ability to balance strength with humility. Together, they became a source of inspiration for the village, demonstrating that love and partnership are strengthened by understanding, shared values, and consistent care. One morning, as they walked along a winding path leading to a nearby hill, Ayanna spoke softly. "Do you remember the first days I arrived in the village? I was afraid, unsure if anyone would ever care for me as I truly am. And yet here we are, standing together, stronger and happier than I could have imagined." Cade smiled, taking her hand in his. "I remember," he said. "You were cautious, curious, and full of courage. And I realized early on that it wasn't your wealth or your status that mattered, it was your heart. You've taught me that love is not about appearances or fortune. It's about patience, honesty, and being there for each other, no matter what." Yana felt a warmth spread through her chest. She realized that their journey had not been simple or easy, but it had been worth every challenge, every test, and every moment of doubt. Through her experiences, she had discovered that love requires courage, not just to reveal oneself, but to trust in the heart of another. Cade's consistent kindness and steady presence had shown her what true love looks like, and she felt grateful every day that she had chosen to follow her heart rather than simply rely on her family's wealth. The villagers noticed the change in her as well. She no longer walked among them as a mysterious or cautious figure. She moved with confidence, tempered by humility, sharing her skills, her laughter, and her care. Children followed her as she tended gardens. Neighbors smiled when she offered help, and even those who had once admired her wealth from afar now admired the character she had shown through her actions. Her presence had become a source of warmth and inspiration, and her story spread beyond the village as an example of courage, honesty, and the power of genuine love. Cade's support never wavered. He joined her in every task, large or small, never seeking recognition or reward. Together, they managed the challenges of village life, from organizing harvests to helping families in need. Through each shared effort, they strengthened their partnership and deepened their understanding of one another. Yana marveled at how natural it felt to trust Cade completely, knowing that his intentions were true, and that his love for her was not influenced by status, wealth, or appearances. As the seasons changed, Ayana and Cade began to dream of a shared future. They spoke of building a home together, blending the simplicity of village life with the comfort of her family's estate. They imagined raising children who would learn the value of honesty, patience, and compassion, children who would understand that true wealth lies in love, character, and shared effort. Every discussion brought excitement and hope, as well as the reassurance that their love had been tested and proven. Iana also reflected on the lessons she had learned during her experiment. She had discovered the importance of observing actions rather than words, of valuing character over appearances, and of understanding the heart beneath the surface. She had seen the difference between admiration and true love, between shallow gestures and genuine care. And she had realized that trust, once earned through consistent integrity, is the foundation upon which lasting relationships are built. One day, as they stood overlooking the valley from the hilltop, Cade turned to Ayana and said, "We've come a long way together. From the moment I first saw you, I knew there was something special about you, but now I understand fully. We've shared challenges, joys, and lessons, and I feel certain that we can face anything as long as we are together." Yana smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. "I feel the same, Cade. We've both grown through this journey, and I am grateful that we have found each other. You've shown me that love is not about testing or schemes. It's about seeing the heart, trusting it, and nurturing it every day." Their love, now fully acknowledged and strengthened, became a source of joy for the entire village. The children admired their kindness, the neighbors appreciated their guidance and care, and the story of Ayana, the rich Apache woman who had chosen humility to find true love, became an enduring tale of inspiration. It reminded everyone that wealth and status could never replace sincerity, courage, and honesty in building meaningful relationships. Over time, Ayana and Cade blended their lives seamlessly. They managed the estate and the village chores together, shared laughter and stories, and faced challenges with patience and trust. Their home became a place of warmth, learning, and community, where everyone knew that love and care were the guiding principles. Jana often reflected on her earlier fears, the worry that no one would love her for who she was, and realized that those fears had led her to the most important lesson of all, that love cannot be forced, bought, or faked. It must be recognized, nurtured, and earned through consistent kindness and understanding. Cade, too, reflected on their journey. He had been rejected in the past for his simplicity and ordinary life, but Ayana had seen his heart. She had chosen him not for his appearance or wealth, but for the integrity and care he had always shown. Cade felt a deep sense of gratitude for her courage, patience, and insight. Together, they understood that love was not about perfection, but about acceptance, effort, and the willingness to grow together. As the years passed, Ayana and Cade built a life full of small joys and shared accomplishments. They celebrated the changing seasons, helped the villagers through hardships, and nurtured the bonds of friendship and community that had grown around them. Their story became a lesson for others, that true love is revealed in consistent care, shared responsibility, and mutual respect, and that the heart's perception of another person matters more than any external wealth or status. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink, Ayana leaned her head against Cade's shoulder. "I am glad I took the risk," she said softly. "I was afraid, but it led me to you, and now I understand the meaning of love in a way I never could have imagined." Cade smiled, holding her hand gently. "I am glad you did too. We've learned together, grown together, and now we share something real. That is what makes life meaningful." In that quiet moment, surrounded by the beauty of the hills and the gentle sounds of the village, Ayana and Cade understood that their journey had been about more than finding each other. It had been about discovering the true value of honesty, courage, and patience, and about recognizing that love is most powerful when it is earned through trust and sincerity. And so, their lives continued, full of laughter, shared effort, and enduring love. Yana had achieved what she had set out to do. She had found a partner who loved her for her heart, and together they built a life rich not in material wealth, but in understanding, respect, and the quiet joy of a love tested and proven. The village continued to thrive around them, inspired by their story, while Ayana and Cade's bond grew stronger with every passing day. Their journey from uncertainty and testing to trust and enduring love became a tale that was shared and remembered, a reminder that the greatest treasure is not wealth or status, but the steadfast love of someone who sees and values the heart beneath appearances.